Hey YouTube, welcome to RV Daydream, and starting into a new project. We're going to go ahead and do some bumping. What do you think?
We don't have time for that.
What have you been up to?
I've been riding on a daydream. So Heidi says we don't have any time for that. Oh well. Behind me here, I don't know if you could see that. I'm shooting this with my phone. We got a product sent to us. So why would we want this product in the first place? Let's talk about that first. Moving to the back of the RV, we were contacted by, not a turkey. Turkey don't like when I talk. We were contacted by Mountain Lock. It's Mount, the letter N, Lock. Mount N Lock. We had in the past, on our old 1992 Terry camper, have a rusty bumper that we were trying to consider mounting a hitch on the back of it to mount a cargo carrier. Well, with that old Terry camper, what we found out was the bumper was really rusty. Because you're keeping your sewer hose inside there, you can imagine it's not going to necessarily be dry in there all the time, and it is pretty much bare metal. Even if it's painted just a few times in and out with something that holds moisture or has moisture on it or leaking out of it to some extent, you're going to get, of course, what you can imagine, and that's rusty bumpers. And the problem that we had with the Terry was whenever I was putting that hitch mount on, it was literally crushing the bumper, but we still could mount that cargo carrier on the back due to a product that Mount and Lock had, and that was their safety struts. And these safety struts they had basically were a couple of L brackets that were made out of a real high quality, strong aluminum that bolted to the frame and basically cradled underneath and kept the bumper from twisting and breaking off. Now you can see there's a spare tire on here. That's pretty much all you're supposed to have on these bumpers. I see people that put bicycles and all kinds of crap on these things, but if you want to try to get away with your factory bumper, you can do a safety strut. However, if you look here, I don't know if I would, because other than this weld here and a couple of smaller welds that are on the side of this big I-beam, this is part of the frame, this I-beam, other than these little welds, that's pretty much it. This metal, not exactly thin on this one, but some of them are really, really thin. So we got contacted by Ralph out at Mountain Lock, and he said, hey, I watched your video where you put the safety struts on. He said, I seen your RV's bumper was really rusty. He said, would you consider putting a bumper on your RV? He says, we've got a new bumper out, and better than that, they have this hitch that I'm going to show you also that bolts to the bumper. It's really cool. This bumper's fine. I could use their safety struts. It would add some strength, and I could put some generator mounts on the back, but I opted to go ahead and replace this with a new, bigger bumper. This thing's awesome. I've read all kinds of reviews on this as far as looking at them, checking out what other people have said about it. The first thing I can say, we got this shipped to us. It came right away, and the packaging is incredible. This is some kind of a fiber tape, and I mean, there is no movement inside this box. So let's go ahead and cut this thing open. So here it is out of the box, and what a monster. This is a 5-inch, yes, 5-inch bumper. And here's the funny part. This isn't even the King Daddy. This is the middle of the road. You can get a 4-inch, of course, just like the one that's on the RV, but it's going to be aluminum. Or you can get this one, which is a 5-inch, which is kind of really middle of the road. And then you can get a 6-inch. Can you imagine a 6-inch bumper, what that looks like? But here's the thing. There's some big RVs that actually have bumpers that are pretty darn close to that. Let's go ahead and break this open and see what else you get with this. You get all the protective tape off the end and everything. You're going to have a couple of end plates, and these end plates are kind of cool. I'll show you how they work and how you bolt those up and all the good stuff that comes along with that. But the sheer size of this bumper is still just overwhelming whenever you really look at it. And inside they had all that packaging that contained the other hardware, but I just want you to get an idea. My hands are not small. They sure look small in here. So you can get a good idea what it looks like in there. That is one big bumper. I know a lot of you are probably already saying, well, why would I need this bumper? Why do I need to take the bumper off my RV. You don't. A mountain lock has enough accessories that will help your factory bumper carry some weight. However, it's not going to carry the kind of weight that this one does. So if you're looking to add stuff on the back of your RV, you need to look at strengthening the back of your RV. And there's not a lot of options out there. And some of the people that are using some of these other options, there's nothing wrong with that. But for example, underneath here, I could, if I wanted to, put a frame mounted hitch, you know, just a square receiver tube. However, look how low it would be. I mean, I would be down here with whatever it is that I'm putting on. Now, that might help, you know, be okay for loading. However, whenever you're driving around and you get into some weird dippy situations, that may not be too good of an idea. Of course, the other thing that this aluminum affords you, that everybody wants, is no rust. You can put that stinky slinky in there all you want and it's not going to rust. If you guys look on your RVs, if they're more than 5 years old, 8 years old, and you've put away that sewer hose wet a couple times, I bet you that bumper's probably starting to get a little bit questionable. So inside the bumper, once we opened it up, is all of this stuff. Yeah, this is the best part about their system, I think. One of their best parts, which there's quite a few actually. This is all, you can bolt, this all bolts on. This bolts on, it bolts on your frame. Now, of course, you have to drill your frame, but you can bolt it on. You're not taking it somewhere and trying to get it welded. Now, whenever this goes on, it's going to look kind of funky to you. It has these big brackets that actually go into these holding mechanisms, but it's really cool. It's really cool the whole way that it looks whenever it's done. First thing you got to be considerate about is how much frame you have and how far these things bolt into the frame. And I kind of have that situation with mine where I got to be a little bit careful, and I might have to make some modifications to make sure these plates go deep enough into the frame so they can be bolted on. So we're going to go ahead and address that when we get close to that. But I want to show you initially what it looks like unpackaged. And yeah, we'll go ahead and start getting this thing lined up. And more importantly, it's going to take me a while. I got to cut off that new bumper. Well, there it is. I went ahead and cut into the frame just a little bit. You can see here. I'll straighten that out, make it look a little nicer, paint it up. But yeah, once you get the weld started, as far as the breaking them, it's not so bad. All right, so again, this isn't a how-to video, but this is how I'm doing it. So the turkey says, this is just a piece of metal that I clamped to the frame so I can get a good parallel line for both sides. I know that these are parallel and that they're even because, of course, when I cut this, you know, it wandered into the frame a little bit. Now, what I suggest that you do is follow the instructions. Now, in my case, the instructions say that you should push this bracket as far back as you can into the frame without it interfering with this bolt. The problem is I've got stuff up in here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but we'll go ahead and take a look here. Yeah, you can see what I'm running into there. That's all the further back I can go. Now, I'm sure you guys are thinking, oh, you can notch it. Well, I could notch it. There's no doubt about that. But the problem is you're mounting 5 plates on this. 5 plates. So you'd have to mount and notch 5 plates for that, you know, this wire connection. The other thing I did, of course, I pulled down this part here, took a look up inside to see what it looked like. It's all insulated up top, and then the hoses just kind of hang there. But I'm not going to drill into anything necessarily. Now, it's real close also, these holes that are the second layer of holes there, not the first row here, but the second ones, of hitting this cross member. But I don't think it's going to be much of an issue, if it is at all. So basically, this is where everything needs to be mounted at. What I'm going to do is take the bumper and just kind of set it on here, eyeball it, make sure nothing else is going to be a problem, and we'll go from there. All right, we're getting somewhere. Basically, I have all the holes drilled, and we have all the brackets kind of just lined up the way they're supposed to be. Again, just refer to the instructions. Take your time. This is going to take some know-how, but if you follow the instructions, it makes sense. We've got the bumper marked underneath to where this is supposed to clamp on. So basically, we're going to get it to clamp down, and then we're going to, when I say clamp down, we're going to get these plates in place, and we're going to slide it down, lock at the bottom to these here, and you do that again with the instructions by squeezing all of those plates together back there, and then at that point you run the bolts through and tighten them down. Of course, measure left to right, make sure everything's centered, but this bumper's going to look really good, I'll tell you that right now. All right, late in the day, and we got it done. There's a lot of stuff that you got to think about whenever you're putting it together, but Heidi and I took our time, didn't really bust our butts or anything, and it worked. It really worked. This is a really nice setup. I love the way that it looks. Of course, there's so much crap on the ground here from us working, but that is slick. I mean, and the fact that it can hold, well, the actual specs on this says it can hold 600 pounds 1 foot out. So basically about here, it can hold 600 pounds. Now that should be spread out over, how could you have 600 pounds in one spot? So it's not like you can jack up the back of your RV or something with this, but nonetheless, that's slick. That is really, really slick. So I am so glad we have done the bumper, because now we can add accessories, and that's what I want to talk about next, is the one accessory I'm going to show you on this. It's cool. It's cool. And then we've got more coming later, but I'm going to talk about this one right away, because this one gives you a lot of options. All right, in this little heavy, little tiny box is the other accessory. Let's go ahead and get this other stuff out. And this wakes up your whole life. And it is a high-low hitch is what they call it. And this thing is a no drill. It's just cool the way it goes together, which we'll see here. But basically what this does is allow you to put a hitch on that bumper, that same bumper, and it pieces together. It interlocks with itself to give you a receiver. It's really cool the way they've machined this and the engineering that's gone in behind it. So let's go ahead and get this thing out, and we'll piece it together, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's how it's going to go together. Now, read the instructions, pay attention to orientation, notice which plates are symmetrical, which ones aren't, which way angles point. Just be cautious when you put it together. Once you put it together a couple of times, I'm sure you're going to get it, and it's not going to be a big deal at all. But this is a symmetrical plate. Up, down, it doesn't make a difference. All these things are heavy steel, and they're all epoxy coated or powder coated. It's a heavy paint on here. You can tell just by the way it feels. It doesn't feel like it'll flake off or anything like that, which is good. So first thing you're going to do is go ahead and orientate these ramps towards the front of the vehicle. And again, this can mount on the top or the bottom, but you can assemble a lot of this up on top first. Then this is what they call the pressure plate, I believe. We got some little, looks like little guy's arms. You gotta make him point to the front of the RV. Pretty simple, straightforward. Boom. Then you got these things, the holes go down and they go through these two little slots here. Same here, the holes go down, and I'm talking about these holes that are drilled. They just go in. And now, to hold all that together, you've got this spring, a square nut, and the nut's got a bevel to it. You want the bevel to go down. It goes on the spring. We're going to go ahead and just work this under by pulling up these locking plates here, and the nut's going to kind of hold them up into position. I know the lighting's not the best here, but you can get the idea. And go ahead and run this bolt in, and it's going to go all the way down through the spring, and it's just going to touch there. So now we're making this thing pretty solid at this point. Now this is where you'd want to position it wherever on your vehicle for your accessories. It could go over to the side or whatever. The best thing about this is you don't have to drill. It clamps onto the bumper. And the fact that you can position it anywhere on the bumper, and not only that, but this works in conjunction with their Jenny trays. That's awesome, because even with a Jenny tray on here, if it's in the forward position, or I'm sorry, the rearward position, this will still work. You can still have this hitch on here because it's so thin, it doesn't take up really any space off the bumper. All right, so let's go ahead and finish out the last little bit here. And all you're going to do is, well, let's do the back first. We're going to get this right like that. Look how easy this is. And then you got this like that. And then guess what you do? All you do is take and put this underneath to hold it all together. And I'm telling you, this thing is solid then. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so nut in the back, washer. Go ahead and start this hex. Get that started there. Run it in. And then, same here, bolt in the front, then a washer, and then it goes into the hex. Okay, so we'll go ahead and tighten this hex and that nut, and then at this point, you're going to tighten this one. And you want to get them snug. You want this to clamp down. Now, you're not going to over tighten this. Do not go crazy. Once it bottoms out, basically, you're finished. And you have a hitch. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these the rest of the way down. 15 foot-pounds. That's all you really tighten it. Now, that's not very tight. An intake manifold, aluminum intake manifold, if you guys are familiar with that, that's about 12 foot-pounds. So just a little bit tighter than that. Now, if I wanted to put this upside down, I could. And of course, before we did this, put these plates on and that, we would have it upside down and put it on that way. I just want it up top. I just want to see what it looks like up there. As far as this nut, the retention or the pressure, tighten it till it's just snug. I don't even know if this little wrench will get there, but yeah, just till it's snug. You don't have to do a lot on that. And basically what this is doing is holding these locking plates in place. Now that all that's done, look how, I mean, this this is solid. It's not going anywhere. I think that was probably the stuff I put on there. Oh, maybe not. So this is it. You now have your, and you can move this anywhere real easy. I mean, all I have to do is just loosen that bolt that's on the bottom and slide this around and put it wherever I want. So in this case, since we have a ladder up top here, if we had bikes and they were kind of too far one way, or they were blocking, maybe they're blocking your tail lights or something like that, you can move it where you need to. And again, you have the option of putting it down below. This is not for towing. Just want to make sure you know that. It's not for towing. You can't tow with this. That's not what this is designed for. This is load carrying capability. And not only that, you've got to pay attention to how much load you can actually put on here. Basically, pay attention to what your weight is and what you can do. It's all in the instructions. Just follow the instructions. The next thing we're going to do is put a generator on here and an extended gas tank. I do want to show you one feature on the bumper I think is really cool. And that's the Stinky Slinky holder. You can see this just has a little nub here. These are grooved so you can use them, you know, for your fingers, but you just pull this up and it can't come out. You can twist it around, you can do whatever you want. It's not going to come out of there. And this is where you put your sewer hose in. All right, guys, we're going to wait just a few days. We got some trays coming in and we're going to mount the generators on the back here, and I'm excited. What about you, Heidi?
I think it looks good.
Heidi's got COVID chin. She went over and got some flat black rust preventative paint. We're going to go ahead and spray the frame wherever we cut the hitch off, or the old bumper off. Yeah, I think it looks good too. It looks classy.
Looks very nice.
Yeah, very, very nice. It is. It's a clean install. It's very, very nice looking. We really didn't know what we were going to get into with this big bumper on the back and these big aluminum clamps, but now that it's on here, it looks very, very nice. All right, so a few days have passed since we last did this little install, and I've got some more stuff that's on the back of the truck we're going to take a look at that's going to complete this. Again, I've got to mention the same thing that I did prior, and that is they are the packaging kings, that's for sure. They put this together like an engineer would put together the whole outfit. The packaging is good, it's tight, and really the product is very well protected and secured so that when you do get it, it comes like this and there's no surprises. So there's no confusion, because you're going to see some other pieces here. If you order one tray, and again, it all depends on which tray you get and how much weight you're trying to support, this is what you get for a standard steel tray. Of course, these brackets, the arm brackets, have to be the right size for the bumper. You know, that's specific. You either 4-inch bumper, 5-inch bumper, 6-inch bumper. It's going to be a specific bracket. And then the arm, of course, connects to that, and then the tray. But this is what one system looks like. And this is their Jenny Go. That's what they call it, a Jenny Go, because that's what most people are putting on here. It's a generator. Now, I'll know for sure that the Champion generator would sit on here. It would definitely sit on here whenever it's assembled. The instructions are very clear, very, very easy. All this stuff is so easy. It's like, if anybody has ever messed with Lincoln Logs or Tinker Toys or Erector sets when they were a kid, that's what this is like. It's like assembling Legos. It's very, very simple. Everything's marked really nice. They're showing that there's going to be some extra bolts in here, and that's in case you want to add a second support arm. And again, that would be this underneath if you need to have an additional amount of weight being supported. You might have to run not one, not two, not three, but 4 arms for just one tray. Now, as I clang these around, I want to tell you about 2 things that stand out way beyond anything that I've seen in years. And I think that's because I've been getting a lot of products from overseas. And of course, this is being in the US. First of all, this powder coat finish that's on here, this epoxy or whatever they've got going on, it is like a mirror, and it is perfect. I've had cars that have been painted worse than these trays are, easily. I mean, this is a great finish. Not only that, but I can't find like an area that was not painted very well. This is very well done. Every single piece here is just painted to perfection. I mean, there's no scratches. It looks like it just came from the powder coater. I mean, I've had stuff powder coated. You guys have seen that. We had these extensions that I made for these steps, because these steps didn't extend far enough. I had those powder coated locally, and I mean, they looked good, but I don't even think they looked this good. The shipping on it took me at least 10 minutes to unpackage this and all these pieces over here for the other trays. I cannot believe how well this is packaged. There was no way, as tight as this was wrapped and as consolidated as they had it in those 2 boxes, that these 3 trays were going to rub each other or scratch each other or anything. And if UPS damages it with this double box and the way this is packaged, then they must have run it over, because it is just really, really good. I know this seems really boring, but whenever I have products sent to me, you have no idea how many times I've had stuff that hasn't even come in an overbox. It's just come in a box, the box that would be sitting on the shelf at a store if you was to buy it. But this is in very, very good shape. I mean, just really A+. I've never had anything packaged this well. Very, very good. All right, so enough jabber about the product itself. Let's go ahead and get this on the bumper, show you what it looks like. And again, the instructions are so simple. Anybody could do this, really anybody. So I wanted to show you this one feature. This is not how I'm bolting this up in my specific situation, but I wanted to show you this feature first. And that is, if you have this high-low hitch, you still can use this tray right up to it. if you see these provisions here, these slots that are in the tray, if you take and loosen these bolts here and here, and of course the other ones, but mainly these here, you can slide this tray on and it won't interfere with the hitch. See, the nice thing about this is there's a bunch of different configurations in which you can put, let's call them keepers or gates, I guess. And that's what this part is here on the tray. You can either point it up or point it down. And what that allows you to do is if you point it down, like in this case, it won't interfere with anything that's coming out of this hitch. I mean, it's real low at that point because this sets below the level of this here for the most part. I went ahead and disconnected it just so you could see how this goes on. Again, it's all engineered just perfect. And this slides underneath these just a little bit. So now you see how this would then go back onto these support brackets just like before. It's just a really cool design. And of course you can do that even with these. You know, you can point them down, and that's what I'm going to show. You can point them down to have the trays side by side by side, so you have, you know, enough room. Alright, so here we are with the finished product. Now, let me tell you, whenever I originally set this up, I thought for sure I was going to take these trays and shorten them up and put them over top of the bumper as much as possible. Whenever we had the trays up on the bumper in the compact form, it just lost something. It lost its ability to look like a cargo carrier. Now, if you're just doing one tray, which I, suspect that a lot of you are only doing one tray potentially, it's a complete different look at that point. But this really finishes off whenever it's mounted correctly, the way that they intended for the most part, it really just ties everything in a lot better. It looks like you have a vehicle with a cargo tray. That's basically the easiest way to describe it. Now again, you have to be conscious of a couple of things. Each one of these, you're talking a little bit of weight here, especially if you've got the steel. Not only being added to your RV, but being added out from the RV a little bit. I don't know, that shouldn't be a concern unless then you start loading it down with all kinds of crazy stuff back here. I'm telling you that you have to be conscious of your tongue weight and what your vehicle has as far as length and weight overall. I can't think of another reason why you want to do this. And again, you remember that high-low hitch, you can bolt that back here still. It fits, there's plenty of clearance. You can see here it also clears the clamps that you have going on here. You can put other accessories, bike carriers, spare tire carriers, all that bolts to this bumper. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I really like it. I think this is probably one of the best cargo carrying systems, again, that you can get. If you remember, and I don't know if you guys do, my 92 Terry, I had paid for a mobile welder to come out to the house and weld a frame on the tongue of the RV, again, because the tongue weight was a little bit light on that RV, so I could mount a generator on the tongue. I had to move my propane tanks forward, and it worked for me. It worked fine. The tongue weight became a little heavy, but I was okay with the truck that I had. But I wouldn't have had to do that if I just had gone to this system. Again, pay attention to your tongue weight, but if you don't want to weld, if you just want to drill and bolt, here you go. I'm going to put the links down below for this. Click the link, it'll take you right to it. Some of them might be Amazon link. If you decide to contact the manufacturer direct for questions, ask for Ralph. Tell him that Mike at RVdaydream sent you, or Mike and Heidi at RVdaydream sent you, and he'll be able to dial you into what you need. If not, one of the representatives that pick up the phone, I'm sure they could help out. But I really appreciate you guys staying for me on this entire install. And Ralph, I appreciate it. This has turned out way better than I thought. Now I've got to figure out my generator boxes and get those up there. But look at all this area I've got to work with. I appreciate it, guys, and as always, we hope to see you out there. Bye.